peserta dimohon untuk segera mengisi bangku di depan. Terima kasih.
Welcome back to the third series, International Summer Course Development Economic Study Program, Faculty of Economics and Business, University of Jember, 2023.
The next agenda is the second session of International Summer Course will be guided by our moderator, Mr. Muhammad Zeki Yasin. We invite you to the stage.
Alright, we're back again. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, maybe some audience are still having class, so maybe we can wait like a little further. Then we're back again for the second sessions of this international summer course. Then I'd like to invite our second speaker today, Dr. Miguel Angel. Please come to the stage. Yeah, give applause to the Dr. Miguel. Okay, yeah, you can use the microphone. So yeah, welcome to Jember, Dr. Miguel. So, how are you so far?
Hi, good afternoon. Yes, I'm doing great. Thank you very much for inviting, and thank you for the hospitality. Jember people are amazing.
Okay, that's very good. Right before I let him to present his topic about the industry, right? The green industry, I'd like to read briefly about his CV. Dr. Miguel Angel Esquistias Padilla. Currently, he just graduated from as a Doctor of Philosophy in Economics from Erlangga University, and also he took the Master degree in Economics from the same university in Erlangga University, and his Bachelor degree is from Industrial Engineering from Universidad Panamericana Mexico in 2006, and currently he's affiliated to the Faculty of Economics and Business at the university. Then also he's teaching focus on the international economics and then international monetary economics, international trade policy, microeconomics, energy and environment, industrial economics, tourism and hospitality, digital economics and creative economics. And then for the working experience, he used to work in the Center for Innovation, Research and Development, which is like the development institution in Universidad Panamericana Jalisco, Mexico. And then he also has several activities as an expert. Now he becomes the consultant for the Ministry of National Development Planning of the Republic of Indonesia from 2021 until now. And then he also has some academic research. For example, in the 2022, he has grant from National Export Promotion Program as a driver of economic competitiveness, the effect of EPP on strategy, competitive advantage, and trade performance in Indonesia Collaborative Research Grant from Ministry of Education in Indonesia. And then, it's quite a lot. Okay, so for the publication, so basically I also have some publication with him recently in 2023, if I can read one of which. Yeah, even like in 2023, he has already produced like more than 10. Then his current publications entitled Impact of Renewable and Non-Renewable Energy on AKC in SAARC countries, Augmented Mid-Group Approach, published in Energies. And then another research entitled The Nexus Between Crime Rate, Poverty and Income Inequality, a case of Indonesia, published in Economist. Then another studies, the spillover effect of foreign investment on manufacturing export-import in Indonesia, studies published in Studies in Economics and Finance. Right. Then he also has some article that is under review. One of which will be under review in renewable energy. So basically, Dr. Miguel concerned on the industrial economics and energy economics as well, and in the minor topic on the tourism economics. All right. Without further ado, I'd like to Dr. Miguel to present his presentation. Yeah, time is yours.
Great, thank you very much. Is it okay if I go to the stage? Because if I sit down, I will fall asleep. And if I fall asleep, you will all fall asleep also. Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, so it's great to be here. Thank you for the invitation to SECI, and also thank you for Dr. Hartman, who also extended the invitation to this summer program. And also, this morning I have the opportunity to meet with Ibu Dekan, very nice person. And also, yes, thank you everyone for the invitation to present here. Shall I use this one, or I use this? Okay, so yes, I'm Mexican. I'm from Mexico. I studied industrial engineering, and then afterwards I moved towards economics. Many people ask me, why did you move from industrial engineering to economics? The story is long, but one of the points is precisely that industrial things are very much related with development. If you talk about industrial production, etc., it's very much related with resources. And we are facing that issue of, we are very limited of natural resources. So meaning to say that there is a great advantage for an industrial engineer to be able to understand developments. So that's what initially brought me to economics. And then in economics, so I started doing things about international trade and then industry. That's where I have been collaborating with SECI for several articles. And then I also do other studies. I do a little bit of many things because my work is mostly research. So I teach a little bit, but most of the time I spend doing research. Okay, so today I will talk about these challenges and opportunities for the sustainability. And I will try to focus on small enterprises. Okay, before I enter into the topic, I want to point out one thing. This is something that we experienced a few years ago, which was that the fourth industrial revolution. So we all hear about that. There will be a lot of opportunities. There is a huge potential. Everybody will benefit from that. There will be huge demand for high technology products. And then we start hearing about new technologies, robotics, automation, artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things. And then we start hearing about a lot of technologies, and then the question is, what will happen with the small enterprises? Can small enterprises benefit from all those new technologies, or they will only be consumers, or they will only observe what is going on with technologies? And now we are facing another similar thing, which is about sustainability, or this green revolution. In the same way that we saw, and we are seeing the industrial revolution, we are going to see a green revolution. Okay, why green revolution? Because we are shifting towards more sustainable systems. Okay, it's not only about solar panels. It's not only about using less plastic bottles. Okay, it's more about using new technologies to produce things. It's more about using more efficiently the resources that we have. And that is bringing many companies and countries to invest heavily on green technologies. Invest heavily. Innovate heavily. Okay? So I will try to focus on those two aspects, no? The thing about investment, innovation, and the potential that we may miss if we don't prepare the small enterprises. Okay, so I will be talking a lot about small enterprises. Don't misunderstand me, please. I'm not going to say that small enterprises are bad, no? Or they are, or they don't know how to do things well. What I will say is that we should worry a little bit more about the small enterprises to help them to grow and to become like what President Jokowi constantly says, no? Night class. Okay, so increase the quality of the small enterprises. Why night class? Because if we want to benefit from high technologies, if we want to take place in the green revolution, we need that those small enterprises can do something about that. They can develop products, they can adapt their business models, they can develop their markets based on renewable systems. If those enterprises are not champions, if they are not from the next level, they won't be able to compete or they won't be able to benefit from the green revolution. That's the main topic of today. I will talk about that. If you want to fall asleep afterwards, it's already okay. No? So I deliver the main message now. So next slide, please. Okay, so this is a little bit what I was explaining. So this thing about the green economy, the first thing is that there is a huge opportunity because there will be an enormous market demand for green products. Electric vehicles is perhaps the most evident thing. That there are expectations, for example, that by 2030, there will be already 200 to 400 million electric vehicles all around the world. So you can imagine what will happen if a country like Indonesia doesn't shift the automotive industry towards electric vehicles. In 3 years, when you will be graduating from college, you won't buy anymore a gasoline car, for example. Okay? And the same thing will happen with other technologies, in which they will shift from inefficient sources of energy to more efficient ones. So the first point is that there is a huge demand for, or there will be a huge demand for environmentally friendly products and services. It's not only products, it's also services. And this is a point in which emerging countries or developing countries, we have to work a little bit harder. How to develop more services. That will be the second part of my topic today. That developing countries need to redesign their economic models, because what we will see is that the largest companies nowadays, they are making more profits from services than from physical goods. Okay, the largest American companies are making more than 50% of their profits because of intangibles. Okay, things that you cannot touch with your hands. Things that it's not clear where they produce. Those are services. Okay, and there is a huge opportunity also for that, in which small enterprises can benefit. Another thing with the green economy is that there are new technologies that require innovation, production. Okay, there will be so many new technologies related to environmental products. The same way as we saw in the fourth industrial revolution, yeah? Nobody knew how artificial intelligence or the Internet of Things will work. Nowadays, many of us, we have wearable devices. Many of us, we are using ChatGPT. I hope you are not using that for your classes, yeah? But we have access to that, no? And many of the applications that we use are based on artificial intelligence, no? So the same thing will happen with the green economy. There will be new technologies coming out. We can talk about, for example, electric vehicles, green building technologies, yeah? Waste management and recycling, water and wastewater treatment, sustainable agriculture. This is very relevant for Jember because Jember is an agricultural region. So you can imagine that Jember has a huge potential of becoming this agricultural sustainable region of Indonesia. Why? Because you are much better located, you have much better infrastructure than Papua or NTT or places in the east of Indonesia. Here you are very well connected. Okay, you have ports in one, you can choose where you want to ship your products. Okay, the third thing is about brand reputation and partnerships. What do I mean with that? That in the future, people will consume more and more things which are renewable or green related. Okay, meaning to say that people will start associating more with brands which are environmentally responsible. environmentally friendly, environmentally whatever. No? So we also need to consider how can we prepare the small enterprises to take into account this, that brand reputation and partnership is shifting towards the green. Okay, the seeds here are green. No? So many things are shifting towards the green color. Another thing is because there are funds, there is access to credit, there is access to programs for environmentally friendly products and business process. So this is an opportunity for small enterprises to get more money, more funds that they need to develop their business, and because we can save money. Okay, save money. It's not only a matter of wasting, it's not only a matter of being green. It's a matter that new technologies which are environmentally friendly can help companies to save, to reduce the energy, the cost of energy. Okay, energy is not cheap, guys. Okay, water, gas, electricity, and other sources of energy can be reduced by implementing these technologies. Okay, so that's the thing about the green. Now let's take a look into, next slide please. Now let's take a look into small enterprises. Okay, if we try to put these two things together, so there is a huge opportunity, there is a huge potential, but then in countries like Indonesia, more than 90%, Indonesia I think 99% of firms are micro, small enterprises, medium enterprises. Okay, so what's wrong with small enterprises? There is nothing wrong with small enterprises, but small enterprises, for example, I mean, they have many virtues, many good things. For example, they create a lot of employment. 9 out of 10 businesses in countries like Indonesia are small enterprises. So they create a lot of jobs. Almost half of the jobs of Indonesia are created by small enterprises. So thank you, yeah, small enterprises for the jobs. They are also very helpful because they can produce many products. Okay, they help with diversification of products and services that people need. They help to reduce poverty. We can also think what will happen in the pandemic if there were not so many small enterprises. People will not be able to find resources to find food. Yeah? So small enterprises are very helpful to resolve and to solve issues like poverty. Not to make people rich, but at least not to let people fall into poverty. And the other thing is that they are resilient. Is resilience good? Who thinks that to be resilient is good? Is it good that small enterprises in Indonesia do not die? Is it good? Who thinks that it's good that they don't die? Or you want them to die? Okay, that is not a very nice thing to say, yeah? But they are very resilient. They don't die too much. Okay, but why they don't die? Not because they are very strong guys, but because they work in a very inefficient market. Okay, meaning to say that in those markets you can afford being inefficient and you can still survive. But what is the problem? That they are producing goods which are not perfect for the market. Okay, since the market is very imperfect, they survive, they are resilient, but it's not a virtue. Okay, but they are resilient. They can last. They can be heated. They can be punched, and they will continue to survive. So those are enterprises. There is nothing bad with being enterprises, but can enterprises develop new technologies like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence? Can they develop self-driving motorbikes? Can they develop automating I don't know what? Some of them, yes. There are some small enterprises, startups that are very brilliant, very innovative, but most of the enterprises, they are incapable of developing these new technologies. Not because they are full or but because they don't have the necessary resources and they don't have the capabilities they need to thrive. So next one, let's compare what happened now with the large enterprises. Next slide, please. So large enterprises, they tend to be more productive, which means they use resources in a better way. Maybe Seki here wants to say, not always, or mystery is not always, no, but generally, large enterprises, they tend to be more productive. They also pay higher wages, which means, actually, if I ask you, after you finish university, do you want to work for a small enterprise, or do you want to work for a multinational company, a large company? Yeah, you don't have to answer, but most of you will say, yeah, no kerja di multinational, yeah? No kerja di You want to work in large companies, not only because it's cool, but because they pay higher wages, okay? You have vacations, you have social protection, you also have to work very hard, eh? It's not for free, but they pay a little bit more. They provide more secure employment. More secure meaning to say there is social security, you have vacations, you have the PGS, you have other things that give you some degree of protection. They also have more resources, so they can do more market intelligence. They can develop products, okay? Not all of them, but they usually spend more or allocate more money in the development of products, on identifying markets. They can reach foreign markets. Here I saw outside there is a Pollo export-import, something like that, no? Which is, I suppose, is an initiative of trying to see how can more small companies export products. Which is easier, for a large company or a small company to export? Yeah, why large companies? I don't want to say that large companies is always better, yeah? But large companies, they have more people, they have budget, yeah? They have more specialized staff, they can spend money, they can send people abroad, they can spend, okay? And they can, so they are more likely to be able to reach global markets, they are more likely to be exporters, they are more likely to make high quality investments. Just think about these guys. Last year, the 5 top American companies spent in research and development $200 billion. That's 20% the size of the Indonesian economy. Okay, so that's how large is the Malaysian economy? How large is the Malaysian economy?
Quite large too. Yeah.
Okay, so this is like 20%, yeah, of the size of the Indonesian economy. It can be larger than the economy of many countries. So meaning to say that large companies, they tend to invest more in high quality investments. They're also more likely to innovate, more likely to offer training. Okay, so if you can get training, coaching, etc., it's more likely that if you work in one of these large companies, you will get that. They can lower production costs. Okay, they can produce at lower cost. That's also why more large companies die, yeah? Because since they try to push the prices down, so there is a time in which, yeah, the cost of production doesn't cover anymore the price and they have to exit the markets, no? But, okay, they can lower the production costs. They can adopt international standards of quality. ISO, HACCP, and etc. It's more likely that a large company will engage in that. Okay, why I am telling you all these things? I don't want to tell you that everyone has to be a large company. But what I am trying to tell you is that there should be an effort towards helping small companies to grow. Okay, to grow meaning to say, to put more resources and to encourage more small companies to become larger. Why? Because they want them to create better jobs, higher quality jobs. We want them to invest more. We want them to increase their quality of their products and services. We want them to be able to export. We want them to be able to be, okay, if we want the small enterprises to be like that, we have to make efforts and to support that the small enterprises can grow big. Okay, survey. From 20 companies that are born this morning, if we look at them in 20 years or in 10 years from now, how many of them do you think they will be large or medium? Half of them? 10 of them? 5 of them? 3 of them? 2 of them? Okay. Some surveys say that out of 20, only one. Sorry, out of 10, only one. And out of 100 companies, only one will be large. Okay? So that's a little bit low numbers for developing countries. We need more large companies. This is the second point. Or the next point, not the second. The next point, why? Because having more or larger companies, they have effects and impacts on other companies, yeah? If you ask Seki, who is doing research on that field, they will tell you that large companies and multinational companies create something which is called spillovers. Okay? Spillovers means that their know-how, okay, the knowledge they have, their contacts they have, the markets they have, their resources and system and etc. they have, sometimes can be passed to other companies. Not because they share, but because we can copy, isn't it? If you work for Astra Motor for 1 year, and then you resign from Astra, and then you go to another company, you can say, I know how to implement quality control systems. I know how to control inventories. I know how to handle logistics. I know how to handle human resource departments. I know how to handle suppliers. I know who are the good suppliers. I know which are the good banks. You learn from them. So there are things that you can copy from them. Okay, who did this process of learning from large companies and multinational companies very well? Which country do you think is good at doing that? Learning, absorbing from those companies. Think about Indonesia, for example, yeah? In Indonesia, there are Japanese companies, there are American companies, there are Chinese companies, there are many companies coming here. And we learn something from them. But Indonesia is not among the good learners. Okay? Compared with those who are very good learners. Who is a very good learner? Who do you think is a good learner? China. Okay, besides China? China also, no? Besides China, China. Yes, China was a fantastic learner. I mean, how do I know that? I mean, if you take a picture of the trade composition of China in 1995, you will see that China was importing like, I don't know, 30 or 40% of their raw materials were imported. If you take a picture on the year 2017, they only import 10%. What does that mean? That they are buying less from others and they are producing those raw goods at home. But not only that, they're also exporting more, which means that they are still in the markets of the other countries, no? So they are buying less from them, and then they are selling more products to those countries that initially invested. Japan, for example, no? So if before China was assembling mobile phones from Japan, from South Korea, they were buying parts, assembling China, and selling those products back to Korea, and Korea will export. Now China doesn't return the products anymore to Korea. China exports those products directly abroad. So they learn, okay? So they learn the management systems, they learn how to produce intermediate products, they learn how to handle exports, they learn, etc. At the beginning, the learning process was a little bit funny. Why? Because if you ask Pa Herman or someone a little bit older, some years ago, buying a product from China was taking high risk. Why? Because maybe the product looked very nice, but in a few days it's not working anymore. No? So it means that they were not very good at imitating. But nowadays, percaya atau nggak percaya produk China? More and more we trust more. Yeah, there are cars now from China, Wuling. No? If you compare an Almaz with a Toyota Nova car with the components, yeah, the jauh lebih canggih Toyota, Almaz dibandingkan compared with the Innova. No? So my point is that they are learning a lot, and this is something we should think: how can we help the small enterprises to learn more? Meaning to say, we don't have to develop all technology from zero. We can learn technology from others, yeah, the know-how, etc., etc., etc. So next one, please. Okay, so these are features of large firms in developing countries. Let's take a look now, how are the large companies in developing countries? For example, nearly 6 out of 10 large enterprises are the most productive in their country and sector. So if we take a look, who are the champions in this country? Out of 10, 6 of them are large companies. The other 4 probably are medium-sized companies. On average, they pay 22% higher hourly wages. Yeah? So we don't only say that they pay more, but there is an evidence that large enterprises in developing countries pay on average 22% more. The large firms also attract better workers. So the best talent want to work in large companies. Unilever, Astra, Indofood, no? And these companies can choose, yeah? Mereka pilih-pilih. So they can afford choosing the best workers by paying them 22% more. Sometimes less than that, no? But young people, they just want to be in the best companies. You don't have to pay them very much, but you can attract the best talent there. That's not very good for small companies, yeah? Because we need to say that less productive workers go to small enterprises. Then large firms more frequently offer formal jobs, secure jobs, and non-pecuniary benefits. Non-pecuniary is like the BGS, and they get other incentives there. They are creators of a lot of jobs. 50% of jobs are created by large companies. So if you want to create jobs, if you want to export more, you need more large companies, not more small companies. Okay? This is something that sometimes I try to convey. No, that it's good to think that small companies are very important, yes, but if you want to become, if you want to export more, if you want to create better jobs, to do innovation, you need more large companies, not more small companies. Okay? And this is an interesting thing about large companies. Many of the large companies are born large. Many of large companies are born large. What is the meaning of that? It's not that they right away hire 100 people. Come on, work for me, 100 people. But there are companies that are born with the mentality of being large. I'm not putting this company to serve students from Universitas Jember outside, to serve them coffee after class. Okay, I am creating a franchise. I want to put a coffee that later on will be a franchise that will be put in all universities all around Indonesia. We were discussing this lunchtime how many universities, public and private, are in Indonesia. There are so many. Okay? So a company which is born with a large mentality is not thinking about serving only coffee for universities from Jember University, but also from many other things. And this is important because, well, yes, 2 days ago I was in Madura. Is there anyone from Madura here? So many, yeah? Half of the people here are. Okay, Madura, no? So we visited a batik house that was started in 2014. What do you think? 2014, that it's considered as young company or company with a lot of experience? 2014, not yet 10 years, yeah? Masih bayi, no? So it's still a young company. Okay, do you think it was small or large? Small, no, it was large, guys. So it has 126 women working, making batiks. It's a social enterprise. There are not formal workers there, they are not full-time there, they are not paid salaries, but they are working for that business. And they make their money from that. But that company was more global. The owner wanted to become large since the very beginning. The owner wanted to become an exporter. The owner wanted to reach all the women in that community. It was born global. So the point here with the large companies is that most of the companies which are large will born large. So this is a message for the Faculty of Economics of University of Jember, which means it's good to promote entrepreneurship, but also to put in the mind of people that they have to create companies which are large. One day you will be exporting, one day you will be manufacturing, one day you will make your business model a franchise, etc. Another thing is that in some countries, large firms contribute to the largest tax revenue on profits and capital gains. If you are Sri Mulyani and you are Sri Mulyani, you want more small companies in Indonesia or large companies? Yeah, small enterprises, not more, please. They don't pay taxes and they complain a lot. No? Too many complaints and they don't pay taxes. So give me more large companies. It's an exaggeration, no? But the point is that a lot of the revenues from taxation come from large companies. Another thing is that large contribution it's also part of the large contribution to the national exports. What do you think about Indonesia? Large exports in Indonesia come from small companies? Producer batik, keripik, tahu, goreng, keripik, crunchy, sexy, etc. No? Or from large companies? Large companies, no? The largest commodities of Indonesia are batubara, karet, CPO, nickel, Those are not business for small companies. No? Okay, so the same thing that happened in Indonesia. Small enterprises in Indonesia export something like 15%. It's a good contribution, yeah? 15% out of almost 200 billion, not bad. I mean, it's a good contribution to the country. But if you want the exports to multiply by 2 or 3 times, you need more large corporations. Okay, the point, or one of the points, is that there is like a missing top effect. The missing top effect is that there are too few large firms in countries. I mean, Indonesia should have more large companies. How do we know that? I mean, there is this study from the World Bank that said he actually read very well. It's called Make It Big, or how is it? Make It Big, no? And then in that study they say in Indonesia, if policies were friendlier to businesses, and if government were more supportive, there will be more large companies, and there will be additional 230,000 more jobs. Okay, so there should be more companies, which are large, they are not. So what happens when there are not many large companies, and the country knows that you need large companies? What do? What is Indonesia doing? Not only Indonesia, yeah? China did it for many years. You know that you need more large companies. There are not large companies. There are not enough large companies. What do as government? You create state-owned enterprises. What are state-owned enterprises? Are companies owned by the government. In China, there are so many. A few days ago, we have a guest lecturer from a Japanese lecturer, and he was explaining how come so many economists fail to predict. They were predicting that one day China financial market will collapse. And they were saying, you know why? Because there's the amount of non-performing loans, which means that loans that companies or borrowers are not paying back to the banks is extremely large. It's 3 times larger than what it should be. Why is not failing? What China financial system is able to stand? And these guys say, well, because most of those failing to pay were state-owned enterprises. And the banks that were lending money to them were state-owned enterprises. Okay? That is telling you a little bit of part of the story, which means is that small state-owned enterprises tend to be more inefficient than the large companies. In the case of China, they can afford losing money because anyway, it's part of the state. Yeah, it's just like a subsidy. Okay, you don't have to pay your debt. Don't worry, as long as you export. Yeah, so so I need to say that what Donald Trump was saying, that China was subsidizing companies, is quite true. No? Which means that, I mean, quite true in the sense that China was giving credit to companies that they will never pay back. That's called a subsidy, no? So I give you money here, we write down this is a loan, don't worry, you don't have to pay them back. So you declare that you cannot pay, and then one day the bank say, don't worry, you don't have a loan anymore. And the bank also say, it's okay, we can afford having those losses. Okay, the point is that when countries, emerging countries, do not have enough large companies, they create large companies by themselves, state-owned enterprises, which tend to be not as efficient as large companies or even small companies. I will tell you a little bit why. Next one, please. Okay, so this is a little bit what I was telling you, no? That if we compare large with, even this is large with very large companies, meaning to say that the larger the company goes, the higher the training they offer, the more they will tend to export, the more certifications they will have, the higher capacity utilization they will do, and the less likely they will be to face financial constraints. Meaning to say that if you ask now the small enterprises if they are facing financial restrictions, how many of the companies in Indonesia do you think they feel they need more money? Many or few? If you ask large companies, how many of you lack money? I mean, the banks go to their offices, yeah? The banks go to the offices of the large corporation to offer them credit. Okay? The small corporations, more than 60% in Indonesia, they say we need more access to finance. Okay, so large corporations are less, they will face less financial constraints. They are less threatened by informal competitors. They don't care about informal competitors because they can produce better. Anyway, I will not go into this issue, it's not the topic of today, but what I want to say is that they have bigger muscles, okay, to compete. Next one, please. I have many slides, so you will hear next. Okay, so yeah, here large firms invest more and they innovate more. That is very clear. And if we go back to our topic of sustainability, and if we want to be champions in sustainability, we need to invest more. Indonesia wants to be a champion, yeah? The President Jokowi is trying to bring many electric vehicle companies to come to Indonesia. But of course we have to think, how are we going to benefit from them? Can we produce parts, components, factories, distribution system? Can we do the same for them? Not only to produce lithium batteries here. We should be thinking about that, no? I mean, cars is not only a battery. Cars use tires, steerings, electric components, metallic parts, fiber, carbon, system. There are so many other parts, and it seems that we are not looking into what is there besides electric, the batteries of lithium batteries that are needed for cars. So that's why we need more companies to make Indonesia a more attractive destination for foreign investors. Large companies are also more foreign oriented. What do we mean by foreign oriented? Large companies, they tend to have certifications, which are the international certifications, which are sometimes needed to export. If you want to export to Europe, if you want to export to Japan, to the United States, which are still the largest market in the world, you need certifications. There is no way you can export food with a stamp from the Dinas Makanan and I mean, in Europe they say, sorry, we don't know who is that Dinas, no? We haven't heard about that Dinas yet, no? So you need those international certifications, they will tend to be exporters, etc. Next, let's go a little bit faster because otherwise we will never finish. Okay, and this is the same, no? They hire more educated workers from almost all things, and they are more productive. This is an interesting thing. If you look into the contribution of productivity in Indonesia, large companies are contributing to 1.5% of gains in total factor productivity or in labor productivity. You can ask later on, Sergio, what is that of productivity? Yeah? But meaning to say that companies can expand, they can make better use of resources. Large companies are contributing positively to that, and small companies are decreasing in their productivity. They are becoming less and less productive over time. Okay? So at the end is who will win? The large companies' contribution and expansion or the small companies? Why the small companies cannot grow faster? Because they lack resources and capabilities. Okay, these are research that we did last year with some colleagues from the University of Erlangen. We were examining or trying to question some companies here about their resources and their capabilities. Resources are like managerial, I mean the human resources, production facilities, knowledge, information. There are many resources that firms have. And capabilities. Capabilities, which means they know how to do research, they know how to find buyers, they know how to market their products, they can do things, yeah? What do you think? Indonesian companies need more resources or more capabilities? If you want to choose one of those, which one is more important? To give companies more information or to teach companies how to create analysis, how to do market intelligence, how to find resources? Which one do you think is more important? Both are important, but dua-duanya nggak apa-apa, but if you can choose one of them, sometimes capabilities are more important. Okay, capabilities are practical things, yeah? If you teach a company which you want them to be exporter, don't tell the company where can he export the product. Saya bisa export produk saya kemana, Pak? Yeah, you can tell them where, but there are hundreds of countries and there are thousands of products. Can you tell all the producers about all the countries and the products. Yeah, maybe if you have a very advanced intelligence market system, you can, but sometimes it's more effective to give them more capabilities or to help them to build capabilities and let them find the resources. Next one. Okay, this one I cannot see where is it, so I will just move to the next one. Because I want to move to another thing, which is, okay, next one, please. Okay, so I will be focusing on the session in two topics. That was supposed to be my introduction, sorry, the last slides. No? The first point is what we were discussing now. What can be done to enable more smaller firms to make it big, to become large? What factors can help small firms to do well in foreign markets? And the second part, which is also very interesting, why Indonesia needs a new formula to grow in exports. I mean, I put here exports, but it can also be just to grow up here. Okay, next one, please. So, okay, these are some solutions that this report from the World Bank is telling the companies. They say, first, in principle, countries, emerging countries, they need to open up more. And this is something we are very much afraid. Yeah? When we were signing free trade agreements with ASEAN countries, or with China, or with European countries, it's like, what are you going to do? Are you going to open your market? Indonesia will become a market for them. So we were very scared. If you go, I'm sure if you go to Malaysia, when the agreement was about to be signed, the ASEAN Free Trade Agreement, and you ask Malaysians were also not very happy about the thing, because they would say, Indonesia will come. Yeah? You see the difference in perspective. Yeah? For Indonesia will become a large market for them, and for the other one is Indonesia is so big, they have so many people, they have so many resources that they will take over everything. But the point is that markets are not as open as we should. We need more foreign companies. Okay? Why? You can learn things from foreign companies. China did. How China developed car manufacturing sector or electronics, how China is now about to produce airplanes, or how can they develop a vaccine faster than the American companies? They learn. I mean, if you want to use the word copy, it's okay. They copy and they adapt and they imitate and then replicate, but because they were open. I mean, they also closed some doors. No? There were restrictions, but China was generally open to foreign companies to go there. Another thing is to entrepreneurs that grow their startups. This thing of startups is good. Yeah? It's good to promote the environment of creating more and more and more and more and more new companies. Many of them will fail, yes, but some of them will succeed. We can imagine, for example, on Gojek. Okay? One day Gojek was a startup. Probably there were only 2 or 3 workers there. They were developing a concept. Probably they copied. I don't think the idea was original from Panasonic. Probably they saw that business model in another country. But you can see the impact of Gojek now. How many employments, how many jobs are created by Gojek? And how many businesses are using the platform of Gojek? And how many businesses, the first time they use a mobile device, a smartphone, was because of Gojek? And how many businesses, the first time they open a bank account, was because of Gojek? And how many businesses that download an application and make transactions in digital markets was because of Gojek? So those startups that flourish, like Gojek, Tokopedia, and you can continue, not thinking about the other successful Indonesian startups, those companies have a tremendous impact on the markets. Not only because they create a lot of money. They are rich. I mean, these guys make a lot of money, although now they are losing, but those companies create quite a lot of money, and they create a lot of jobs. Another thing is that you need to allow domestic firms to create spin-offs. You know what is a spin-off? Spin-off is like split, no? Like if I take this thing and then I take the microphone away. Or I took something from behind. Oh, look at this, no? So large companies can create more and more and more and more and more businesses. So I started like a polytechnic, and then afterwards I put another graduate, and afterwards I put a master's, and then afterwards I put a dormitory, and then afterwards I start putting cafes outside, expanding. Large companies, they tend to be like that, spin-offs, and they grow very fast. My brother came to Indonesia, one of my brothers visited Indonesia like 4 years ago. And when he was in Bali, he was thinking about an idea. He has a company of renting construction equipment, and then he was thinking, I have to diversify. I don't want to depend always on construction equipment. So he started thinking about renting trucks, cars, box, no? Like mobile box. No? And then after he went back to Mexico, he started the business 5 years ago. Now he has more than 150 cars in 5 years. He was able to do that because he was born like a large company. Okay, so he has capital, he has some access, he has some. Although he started as a startup less than 10 years ago, all his businesses. Okay, but large companies can easily spin off or split into new businesses. Another one is, okay, besides opening up, is how to improve business environments. Okay, later I will tell you something. Indonesia is doing actually quite okay with improving business environments. Why? Because Indonesia is building more infrastructure. Yeah? There is building more infrastructure. It creates this single submission system, OSS, and now you can do many things online. And now the government is giving a credit cure, no? And a maximum 5% of credit, so it's lowering the cost of money. And then there are so many other programs that Indonesia is doing. They are opening investment promotion centers abroad. There are opening places to promote exports. Okay, there are many things that the government is trying to do to improve the business environment. Why? Because good business environment can swing investment decisions. If you are an investment company and then you go to a country in which the business environment is good, that can be a decision-making factor. You consider, yeah, an investor like Elon Musk comes to Indonesia, goes to Malaysia, goes to India, goes to China, he has to choose one place as a destination. Indonesia has a lot of resources. We are a very large country. We are strategically located. We are offering you land for free. But what one of the industrial parks say that Elon Musk was trying to do is that Elon Musk has not decided to come to Indonesia because of the business environment. He was asking for three things. One thing is, can you guarantee that they will not be mob workers? No? Can you guarantee that they won't be labor issues? Can you allow me to import and export my products? Final products, okay, but can you allow me? Are you going to let me do whatever I want with my products here or not? Maybe not as free as that, but. And there was another third point. And Indonesia cannot guarantee those things. But those three things are related to business environments. So we can say that one of the factors why sometimes emerging countries lose potential foreign investors is because of business environment. Another one is to spread the benefits. This is the propensity, yeah, of large companies to innovate and achieve higher productivity. They can generate more benefits for other firms. For example, okay, I was telling you that Indonesian companies, the small enterprises, only export around 15% of the total exports of Indonesia. But then you can say, wait a minute, what about indirect exports? Okay, indirect exports are, if I am a producer of raw materials, if I have some services that I sell to the exporting companies for their goods that they will be exported, I am exporting indirectly. So actually Indonesia exports around 30%. The small companies export almost 30% of the total value of exports come from small enterprises because of indirect effects. So this is what we call the spread the benefits. Meaning to say, if you have more multinational companies, if you have more large companies, those companies create benefits from other firms. They spread knowledge, they sell them better parts, they create demand for them. I mean, there are many spillovers, there are many benefits that we can get from those large corporations. Another one is to avoid state ownership beyond key public goods. And this is something that, in my personal opinion, which maybe is not very important, Indonesia shouldn't be creating those many small state-owned enterprises because they are not very efficient, they are not very productive, they are not very. I mean, companies like PLN and companies like what they are losing money. Okay, so do you need more of those companies? Perhaps some yes, but many others can actually be done by people. Another one is strengthen the private sector capabilities. Anyway, I will talk about this later on, but this is about skills, technology, market intelligence, infrastructure, finance access, all those things, which means allow the small companies to gain. If they have skills, if they have technology, if they have access to finance, they will be able to start and to become large. So perhaps for me, this is actually one of the most important things, the strengthening the private sector capabilities. Next one, please. How are we going with that? Okay. Okay, so generally there are 4 types of sponsors. Yeah? These large companies or big resources that we can get are foreign companies, or large companies, or governments, or entrepreneurs. These are 4 different sources of resources that can help to create more companies. Each one has different ways of putting together capital, labor, technology, market access, and so on. No? So you can think, which model of development do you want? Do you want to grow by foreign investment companies? China, South Korea, Taiwan, Singapore, they grow using a lot of foreign companies. Or you want large firms spinning off new ventures. These are American companies. Okay, in the United States, the economy of the United States is strongly supported by large firms. And they create a lot of businesses. They spin off. Okay, this is the model of the United States. And the third one is governments. Do you want government to be the one creating more jobs for people? Do you want to work for government always? Yesterday, a friend of mine, he was bringing me to the train station, and then he was telling me, my dad used to work for the radio station before it was a state-owned enterprise. Pekerjaannya enak. Dulu mungkin satu dua hari aja kerja seminggu. And I was thinking, yeah, sometimes that's the impression, yeah, that if you work in a state-owned enterprise, you don't have to work that hard. And the owners or the directors of those companies do not have to work that hard. Anyway, it's owned by the government. If we lose money, there are always ways of solving that. State-owned enterprises, by design, are not very effective, unless they work together with the private sector. Bintang Bir. Yeah, sorry for giving you this example, but Bintang Bir is a state-owned enterprise owned by the government of Jakarta together with private capital. And there are many of those companies which are next one, please. Okay, I will jump to a new issue. Next. Okay, here we have so many. Okay, this is very interesting, guys, because have to find a new formula of growth which will no longer be dependent on these multinational corporations. Okay? So how to create now more large companies which are from at home. Okay? So that can do the job that before multinationals used to do. Next one, I'm about to close, Mr. Sidney. Okay, this is what I was telling you, no? Before in year 2000, $1 billion can create 7,000 jobs, can produce 600 million in exports. You do the operation. If you get 20 billion US dollars in foreign direct investment, so now you can create 150,000 jobs, and you can create 1.2 billion in exports. 120 billion in exports. Not a bad business. Okay? But the thing is that today, when a multinational company comes with $1 billion, it only creates 3,000 jobs, and it only exports $300 million, half of the effect. So we have to look for new ways. They are earning more from technologies, from patents, from intellectual property, from finance, lending you money. Okay, so I will bring the capital there. You just have to pay for the capital. In returns later, don't worry. They are your partners. Now they are bringing the capital, making it easy for you, but they are earning from that. Okay, next one. So this is the breaking points. Everybody is offering red carpets. If you go to Vietnam, if you go to Malaysia, if you go to the Philippines, if you go to Thailand, if you go to any of your neighbor countries, India is allocating more than 20 billion US dollars in incentives for foreign companies. Can you compete with that? Can you make it easier than Vietnam? Can you facilitate or lower the rules more than the Philippines? Can you offer the incentives like, it's like we are fighting and struggling to offer red carpets for these large companies. Okay, so that's why that model is too expensive nowadays. It creates less benefits for the economy, and for instance, we need to find ways of creating new enterprises at home, small enterprises that can have big mentalities, and that can also be able to embrace this, the green revolution. You have to understand a little bit more the green technologies. Okay, sorry, I have many more slides, but I think we don't have any more time. No? So I think I will stop here to allow some questions, and later let's see how the discussion goes, no, to other topics. No? Okay.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, that's really cool presentation because you put a lot of information, like the data information regarding that. So basically, before I give you the opportunity to inquire about the topic that we have discussed before, maybe I'm just gonna give some address regarding, because you keep addressing about the importance of the large companies, right, in Indonesia, because maybe usually some of you think that, well, you are so capitalist, right, because you think that a lot of companies in Indonesia are not large companies. So is it any possibility, in your opinion, regarding the collaborations between the large and the small companies? For example, if you take an example from Japan, there is a partnership between the small medium enterprises and the large companies in terms of their the components is provided by the small companies to be able to use for the large companies. In your opinion, is the small company in Indonesia good enough to have partnership with the large companies?
I think yes, it's part of the. So it's good that you asked that question because that is already going towards, okay, what is the conclusion? I didn't conclude anything in this talk, no? But we can think that the conclusion is we need to find new models, and one of those models is more collaboration. Okay, more collaboration in which large companies can actually help small companies to flourish. How do they help them? For example, the same way as multinational companies help local companies, by making them suppliers, integrating them in their value chains, sharing their standards with them, etc., so they can raise the quality of their products. So there are many ways in which large companies can help the small companies. The other thing is that small companies, they need to look for more collaborations as well. For example, in the last year, I was not looking for that, it only fell on me, which was that there was a company that was exporting rumput laut. Okay, rumput laut, they got orders from the Middle East, but then this company said, we don't have money to finance the exports. So each container that we get, the order we get, we need to pay the farmers something like 600 million, that's the cost of the rumput laut. We have to get that rumput laut for almost 1 month before the shipping, and then we have to ship it. In 30 days, the buyer will pay, which means they need a credit for 60 days for 600 million. So they were not exporting because they didn't have money. And then they asked me, do you have something you want to share? We are making a basket of money now. So they put 6 people together, 100, 100, 100, 100. They have the capital to do the exports. So it's just a thing that small companies, if they are able to collaborate and to look for partners, either in finance or in technology or in knowledge or in other fields, they will be able to expand. This company now is shipping quite a lot of, because they found a formula, not because they found me, but I'm a very small contributor there, but because they found a new formula of financing their export activities. So yes, we need to find more of those formulas.
Yeah, so maybe if I can give the conclusion a bit regarding what you have explained before. Jadi intinya ketika memang kita bicara tentang perusahaan besar, karena perusahaan besar kan sudah memiliki akses terhadap market internasional, kemudian mereka juga sudah memiliki modal untuk melakukan research and development produknya yang tidak dimiliki oleh perusahaan kecil. Jadi kalau kita perusahaan kecil kan memang sekarang kan banyak yang menggembar-gemborkan bahwa yang perusahaan kecil itu sudah bisa ekspor dan sebagainya. Pertanyaannya adalah seberapa banyak sih yang sudah bisa ekspor seperti itu. Dan memang pada akhirnya ya yang kita butuhkan adalah kolaborasi dari perusahaan besar yang memang dia sudah settle dan sudah terlahir besar gitu ya. Jadi perusahaan besar tadi dijelaskan bahwa large companies were born large. Jadi perusahaan besar itu ya sudah terlahir besar. Jadi nggak dari 10 perusahaan hanya satu yang dia dari besar itu yang awalnya dari kecil. Jadi memang kondisinya seperti itu. Alright, I'll give you the 3 first questions. If you may raise your hand, ya, Mbak sebelah sana.
Selamat siang, perkenalkan nama saya Arinda Ritas. Saya ingin menanyakan perihal tadi karena menyinggung rumput laut. Jadi tahun kemarin saya memiliki kesempatan magang PMMB di Kupang dan saya ingin menanyakan perihal mengekspor hasil komoditi rumput laut. Tadi kan menyinggungnya bahwa membutuhkan dukungan dari pemerintah agar agar UMKM atau komoditi rumput laut tadi dapat berkembang lebih baik. Apakah ada solusinya jika pemerintah mengeluarkan perda yang akhirnya tidak dapat mengembangkan komoditi yang dimiliki oleh Provinsi Nusa Tenggara Timur? Terima kasih.
Alright, Mbak Arinda.
Ya.
Regarding the rule, the government rule, jadi perda yang dia give the restriction for the producer of the rumput laut itself to export.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Next question. Yeah.
Good afternoon. Thank you for the time given. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Natalie Shoming. I am from Development Economic. If I'm not mistaken, I have heard that manufacture of electronic vehicles is being planned to be more environmentally friendly and reduce the use of petroleum. But if we examine it again, the use of electric vehicles it still requires batteries, where the use of batteries still requires energy source from coal or power plants. And from a sustainability point of view, isn't this the same as using fuel oil? Indirectly, we continue to use conventional vehicles with an ethanol LNG. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just gonna rephrase your question. So, recently the government tried to encourage you using the electric vehicle,
Yes, sir.
right? Then the things like the utilizations of the battery itself is actually not really different with the utilizations of the petroleum gas or like the fossil fuel, right? Is that your question?
Yes, if we see with another point of view, it's same with we use the conventional vehicles, but with LED environment friendly. That is it.
All right, thank you. Next question? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Muhammad Aisan. I'm a bachelor degree of economic development. I'd like to ask a few questions. The first question is, what to be changed first in a green industry transition? The large firm, the large company, or the small enterprise as the backbone of the economy or the behavior of the people of Indonesia? The demand or the supply side first to change. The second is the simple question as Miss Natal. What do you think about the subsidy on electric vehicle in Indonesia? Because I read an article, most produced carbon emission is produced by the agriculture, forestry, and the other land use, and the industrial energy. So, what do you think is the contradictive of the policy that Indonesia make? The third question is, I read about your article about the controlling industry emission in East Java in cement industry. You said that regulator or a government is a factor control to controlling emission. What is the most efficient policy to control emission that suits in Indonesia? Because BI launched the green financing, green bonds, green loan to value, and tax reduce. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Alexan. Is it? Yes. Okay, so maybe for the first question from Mrs. Arinda, so regarding the PERDA, so it's like the regional government rules that will restrict the export from the producer of rumput laut. So how to deal with this kind of problem?
Okay. Well, there are actually, I don't know what is specifically what is the aspect on that regulation which is making an obstacle for the rumput laut to be exported. Yeah? So I need a little bit more of information there, but what I think is that it's true that governments sometimes create rules that actually affect some communities or some stakeholders. You know? In this case, probably because, I don't know if it's because of environmental practices or because, I really don't know what is the reason why they are making those. But what is interesting now is that the government now has more windows to negotiate and to discuss issues. So the government has it's more open now to discuss these sorts of regulations which are making difficult for companies to work, for example, to export products or whatever. No? So in principle, there are mechanisms now in which there can be consultations between companies and the government and different stakeholders to solve whatever is in that regulation, which is an obstacle. There are many regulations which are conflicting, contradictory. You know? There are so many of them. For example, recently we have an FGD with retailers, and then there is a new regulation in Indonesia in which the retailers, if Matahari opens a shop here in Jember, they have to share, or they have to work together with the local business people, okay? And they have to share, I don't remember, if 5 or 10%. So these guys, as you know, 5% of a shop like Matahari, or like Carrefour, or like this market is a very large amount, which sometimes is not available data, and the regulation is a nonsense. Or in construction, sometimes you need even 3 architects or 3 engineers for each construction company. But somebody was saying, you know, there are thousands of construction companies here, and there are very few engineers. How do you put a regulation in which you don't even have enough engineers to fill all the okay? So my point is that there are so many regulations conflicting, but there are mechanisms now in which the companies can negotiate with government the revision of those regulations. But sorry, I cannot give you a specific because I don't know what is in that regulation, which is limiting the exports.
So basically, we should make another negotiation. They should make another negotiation to deal with this, because anyway, the government has the authority to generate the regulations, right? So maybe the only thing that the company can do is like making the negotiation with them. What makes them give the obstacle and restriction for the kind of export, right? Okay, then the second question from Natalie. As we know that the government tried to encourage the electric vehicle, in which they still use the battery, the utilizations of the battery for their machine, right? In which the battery, as we know that they are made from the component in which they are the same, exactly the same with the fossil fuels, something like that. So what do you think? So isn't it like something that, replacing something the same for the environment or the green thing?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah, it's true, you have a point there, no? In which to push this green revolution, you will need an expansion of the creation or the extraction of natural resources. You need a lot of lithium, you need a lot of nickel, you need a lot of bauxite. The production of mineral products, they have to multiply by amazing amounts. And then and it seems like nobody's questioning that, no? Like say, as long as there are electric vehicles, that's environmentally friendly. And you have a point, no? Which is, there is an environmental harm, which is that you're going to take those resources and that will create an environmental damage to the system that has to be assessed. So probably what is being studied is that these technologies are less pollutant or have lower environmental impact in comparison with carbon-based or fuel-based technologies, no? Which are very high in pollution. Not only because the energy they demand, they need a lot of, to push a vehicle based on fuel or an engine based on fuel, you need a lot of energy. Electric cars, they need less energy. Okay? And then they emit less carbon dioxide. So which means that you are reducing the amount of emissions, which is why we are calling them environmentally friendly, which is not zero emission, or it's not an entirely green sector. No? But yes, President Jokowi should consider your question, no? To say, okay, do you want to open Indonesia now for extracting all the resources needed for the green revolution that will come from Indonesia? It will have an environmental impact. And Kalimantan already suffered that. Is there anyone here from Kalimantan? Besides Dr. Rosita? Kalimantan has been devastated by the coal mining sector.
Yeah, so basically the concern here is like more the pollutant itself. So we're not gonna make the perfect vehicle in which they do not result the zero emission, but at least the emission is like less than the emission that the fossil based use currently. Yeah, that's the point. Then the third question is from Mr. Alexan. So basically, which one that should be changed or regarding the implementation of green industry? Is it the large one, the large company, or the small company, in your opinion? And then maybe you may answer this first.
I think Seki can answer that question better than me. Huh? That's a microeconomics question in the sense that government will choose the one which is more inelastic, no? Which means if the consumer is less, will complain less, and is eager to pay more, so then you choose the consumer. If the companies are, the supply side is more collaborative, is eager to support, and it will continue working, then you choose that one. So it's a matter of elasticities, no? Who is more collaborative to carry out that. But probably in some places that are choosing, if you choose one, you directly are changing the other. The other thing is that if you choose, for example, the supply side, the consumer doesn't have any other alternative. Yeah? So if you choose the supply side, then the consumer has no choice but to buy those products. That's the advantage of the supply. If you choose the consumer, then the supplier has an alternative. I mean, the consumer can choose whether to change their consumer behavior or not. No? Yeah, so that depends on each case. No? I personally think that the supply to the demand side is the best, which means that you restrict what products can be sold, and that's it. Those are the products that can be bought, and those are the products that have to be consumed.
Yeah. So basically, we have to see the elasticity of the product that the producer sell. You cannot justify, yeah, the large company should change or the small company, because we should deal with like what kind of product that they produce there, you know, what kind of product that they sell, whether we're going to try to replace that product, it will affect the market or not. Yeah, we should consider about that. Then regarding the subsidy of the electricity. So yeah, about as you have mentioned before, right, about the emission problem resulted by the electric vehicle. So I mean, does the electric vehicle deserve the subsidy even if they still generate the emission for this environment?
Well, one of the subsidies is also very tricky because Indonesia, I think, is forced to offer the subsidy. Why forced? Because many countries are offering subsidies. Okay, so the United States have just passed a bill in which they are giving a subsidy of, I don't know, 50% of the value of the car by those consumers who buy a vehicle which is produced in the United States by an American company, not American company, but produced in the United States. And then the same bills are also passed in other countries, which means that production will go to those places. If the largest consumer of cars in the world is the United States, so all companies which are manufacturing electric vehicles will open factories in the United States, because that's the largest market. So Indonesia will lose the possibility of attracting companies to come and produce in Indonesia to sell to domestic consumers if they don't offer the subsidy. Okay, so in my opinion is that the subsidy in Indonesia is a forced mechanism, because Indonesia will be one of the largest markets for electric vehicles in the world. So if you don't give subsidies, then you will end up importing all the electric vehicles here. So that's the challenge with the country. Yeah, and this thing that the subsidy comes from this related with forestry, mining. Yeah, I didn't know about that, but yeah, I also find it a little bit strange. Why from them? But possibly it's because the government is expecting that the subsidies in principle for environmental, I don't know, but probably it's a model that is being created, no? In which the forestry and natural resources ministries here, they will have funds for renewability, or they can attract funds from other places. The thing is that it's possible that the Ministry of Forestry, etc., they are getting funds from other countries, which come from those ministers that they can allocate in the form of subsidies. No? So I'm just thinking that it's a way in which Indonesia is attracting funds from other countries, no? For sustainability projects.
Yeah, so basically subsidy is like the form of enforcement. Jadi bentuk semacam paksaan, ya kan memang everyone can apply this policy anyway, right? Even if they can generate the market bias or market, like, you know, blur the situation of the market. So then the last one is like how to deal with ambition. It's like very difficult question anyway.
Yes, it's okay. He's mentioned about one paper that we just published, in which we were trying to analyze how can you lower the emissions in one of the largest emission industries in the world, in Indonesia, which is the cement industry. And then here we were trying to find who are the most responsible ones. The companies should be the ones who are responsible for lowering emissions, or the government, or the regulations, or the regulatory authorities. I mean, there is a difference between the regulatory and the implementers, no, of the regulations. So we were trying to find out what mechanism works the best in Indonesia. Because in some countries, it's a market mechanism, which means you offer the companies incentives, like carbon taxes, or subsidies, or access to credit for clean technologies, and then they will shift towards technologies that lower emissions. But in the case of Indonesia, that's the least preference. So the cement industries, they don't want subsidies. They are not expecting the government to give them subsidies. And they are expecting that the government will be the ones promoting more transparent, friendlier, easier regulations for them to comply. It's a little bit funny what we found in that study. It's a little bit contradictory. No? Why regulatory have to be the one responsible? This is an issue of the company. But the thing is that the way in which Indonesia is, the issue is solved is that the solution that the government, the companies, and the regulators were proposing is something which is like institutional approach, which means the solution is not a technical solution. It's not whether we use technology A, technology B, technology C, or whether the regulation is A, B, or C. The issue is whether we can agree with the community about the problem. So you sit the community, you sit the government, and you sit the company, and we discuss the thing, and then let's find the solution among themselves. And most of the time, the problem with that approach is that ends up being an economical solution, a social solution, but not an environmental solution. Which means they don't lower emissions, but they make the people silent. Okay, so the local community, you give them money, you build the schools, you build religious places, you build markets, you build whatever, and then the community gets at peace. The company continues producing and emitting gas at a much lower cost. Right? What I mean is that jauh lebih murah, yeah, negotiate with community than investing in new technologies. That's what works in the cement industry in Indonesia. A little bit, that's what we found.
All right, thank you. Then another 3 question. Is there? Yeah. Who will give it?
Bahasa. Terima kasih waktunya. Saya 2 hari kemarin itu membaca beberapa artikel yang kebetulan temanya berkaitan dengan industri di sini. Yang pertama itu saya membaca artikel yang menjelaskan tentang hubungan investasi padat karya, tapi ternyata tidak meningkatkan penyerapan tenaga kerja. Jadi hanya stagnan untuk dari investasi. Karena tadi kan saya memperhatikan materi dari Mr. Miguel, di situ ada investasi seperti itu. Tapi ya itu tadi, ini pikiran saya investasi padat karyanya meningkat, tapi kok ternyata tidak mampu banyak menyerap tenaga kerja. Di lain artikel yang berkaitan dengan inovasi, itu juga Indonesia ini mulai meningkat juga investasi padan modalnya yang berkaitan dengan inovasi, misalnya untuk robotik ataupun R&D-nya, biaya R&D. Tapi memang tidak sebesar negara maju seperti yang disampaikan Mr. Miguel tadi. Kalau di Amerika tadi mencapai berapa, 200 ribu dolar atau gimana gitu. Nah itu ternyata kesimpulannya juga bahwa investasi padat modal itu juga tidak selalu mengurangi tenaga kerja. Nah ini pemilihan kok dua hal yang bertabrakan begitu. Nah ini fenomena ini apakah di realnya itu gimana begitu. Kemudian yang kedua, menyambung yang ditanyakan oleh adik-adik tadi tentang emisi karbon. Itu juga kebetulan saya membaca artikel juga yang hubungannya emisi karbon dengan ketenaga kerjaan. Di kesimpulan artikel tersebut menjelaskan bahwa dengan peningkatan emisi karbon itu diasumsikan berarti ada peningkatan produktivitas output dari sektor industri. Artinya di situ bisa disimpulkan dapat menyerap tenaga kerja lebih banyak. Nah ini kalau dikaitkan dengan green industry atau green economy, kesimpulan ini bagaimana menurut Mr. Miguel? Terima kasih.
Right, very good question from Bu Pipit. Anything else? Ya, Pak Herman. Oh ya, sorry.
Pak KPS sebelah kanan aja.
Iya. Terima kasih. Saya ingin membandingkan aja green industri dengan industri perang. Jadi saya lihat fenomena perang Ukraina, saya tadi baca berita itu pertumbuhan ekonomi Jerman sudah minus ya, akibat konflik Ukraina dan Rusia. Ukraina versus Rusia. Jadi green industry versus industri perang, ekonomi perang. Jadi ada satu negara, Amerika sebut saja, itu kan salah satu penopang ekonominya adalah industri senjata. Jadi kalau tidak ada perang, ya bisa-bisa ekonominya jatuh, harus perang, war. Karena dengan perang dimanapun industri senjatanya jalan. Bahkan ada indikasi di Papua itu kan mulai diajak perang, pasukan asing masuk, senjatanya juga masuk. Beberapa tentara elit kita, Kopassus juga terbunuh di sana. Saya kira pasti sangat terkait dengan industri perang itu karena kepentingannya terganggu. Jangan-jangan kita mau diajak perang juga. Mungkin itu, terima kasih.
Alright, so basically you would, Pak Mustafa, right? Yeah, so you address about whether what happened now regarding the Ukraine and Russia is because of a country that has very great supply of the weapon, right? Regarding that, okay. Maybe the third one.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Zeki, as moderator. Good afternoon, Dr. Miguel. Thank you very much for the good presentation in International Summer Course Series 3. I have some questions about in this theme in International Summer Course Series 3. I think in theoretical, in the control in implementation in green economics is environmental tax and proper, and so Indonesia have to regulation in Ministry Environmental and Forestry published to regulation in proper to corporates in corporate and industry and causes in decreasing environment, and also regulation too in financial ministry and the last year, April 2022, published in environmental tax. What do you think is which Dr. Miguel as expert in industry have to instrument in proper industry and environmental tax that regulation effectivitas in control big industry, big corporation to destruction environmental. Thank you.
Yeah, so maybe if I can make another word of your question, it's like, is environmental tax a good instrument to control the industry? Is that your question? Okay.
And proper.
Yeah, proper and a good instrument to control the industry that has, like, generating a lot of emission and pollution. Yeah. Maybe you may answer the first question from Bu Vivian regarding it's like the paradox, right? The paradox in which the labor-based company apparently cannot absorb a lot of labor, but conversely, the capital-based company can absorb more than the labor-based does. Yeah. What happened actually?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, this is a difficult. I think the first and the second question are more or less connected, yeah, because both of them are inputs, labor and capital. And then in Indonesia, the articles you read are Indonesian context or other countries? Different. Okay, so there are many countries there, yeah? Okay, but the thing is that there are countries, like in the case of Indonesia and other emerging countries, in which countries are labor intensive, as you say. There are padat karya, there are labor intensive, and they have a scarcity of capital, which means that they are using a lot of workers with very little capital to produce the goods. So when you get more capital, you don't need more workers, you need more capital. So you continue with the same workers or expanding at the same rate of workers, because that's the model of production that you have. This is still labor intensive. You are providing more capital to those workers, and that is helping the industry to grow. So it's not creating more employment, but it's absorbing more capital. So the point there is the absorption of capital in the model, which is still padat karya. So there is not yet an effect of industrialization towards capital-intensive sectors. So you are not becoming, you are not substituting labor with capital or capital with labor, but you are continuing with the same level of labor, but putting more capital for them. Actually, in this report of the World Bank that I was using, there you can find that example, in which they say that if you remove the contribution of capital to the companies, I mean to the productivity of companies, you will see that labor productivity falls. Okay, which means that the productivity of companies were not because of more labor, but because of more capital. No? Anyway, sorry, maybe it's not very clear what I'm trying to say, but what I'm trying to say is that they are not changing the model of production. They continue to be labor intensive, but they are putting more capital, which was lacking there for a while. Yeah, but if we go to the point, maybe the point that you are trying to raise is having more investment will not create more jobs. No? So you make it easy for companies to invest, but if it's not going to create jobs, why are you going to attract more investments? No? So yeah, those investments are not likely to increase more jobs. They are just likely to make the workplace better. That's perhaps the point, no? That they will not create more jobs, but they will create better conditions for the labor in those countries. No? I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. Maybe Seki has another point. He has also been studying about production functions and labor, capital, etc. No? And about this thing of emitting carbon, labor, and increasing productivity, I'm not surprised about that, because that's the way. That's what you call the business environmental curve. No? So you see that countries start experiencing dramatic growth in economics, or an expansion in the economy at the cost of environmental degradation, which means you get a lot of investment. That investment creates more jobs. That increases the output. You become more productive, but at a very high environmental cost. But what the environmental business curve is telling you, that at one point you will start decreasing your level of emissions, and then you will increase your productivity. So meaning to say that probably that article that you read was still explaining that process of industrialization of emerging or developing countries, in which they are still in the phase of expanding, China was like that, India is like that, Pakistan was like that, Indonesia was like that. Most of the large developing countries are like that. They are following that model. What you are trying to do in environmental things is how can you make the curve shorter, which means that phenomenon will happen. I mean, I haven't seen a case in which you become more productive and the emissions go down. That phenomenon has to happen. But what you are trying to do is to make the point in which the curve starts going down faster. Okay, so that's when you start making policies to make the process or the stage a little bit shorter. Anyway, that's what I think, but it's just an opinion. I'm not sure if it answers your question.
Ya, jadi kalau bisa sedikit merangkum ya Bu ya, jadi biar tidak miss. Jadi intinya kalau yang terkait dengan pertanyaan tentang labor intensif tadi, kalau memang ada suatu kondisi di mana perusahaan itu sudah memiliki banyak tenaga kerja, sehingga di situ dia tetap akan menggunakan jumlah tenaga kerja yang sama, dan memang dia akan menggunakan capital di situ. Jadi dia akan tetap beroperasi pada tingkat labor yang sama, tetapi dia hanya menambah capital yang sekarang. Jadi di situ memang dia labor intensif, tapi memang tidak menambah labor intensif lagi. Dia akan semacam melakukan expansion by having the capital right now. Seperti itu. Kemudian yang kedua tadi terkait dengan environmental Kuznets curve ya Surya. Jadi pada awalnya kan memang kalau kita bicara tentang industrialisasi ya, of course we talk about increasing production, increasing emission, karena ketika kita menaikkan produksi ya emisinya akan meningkat, atau produktivitasnya meningkat maka emisinya juga meningkat. Nah pertanyaannya adalah pada titik keberapa? Jadi kalau environmental Kuznets itu kan dia bentuknya U-shape gitu ya, terbalik. Jadi di situ pada titik tertentu suatu negara itu mungkin akan diminishing atau menurun. Jadi pada titik di mana negara itu bisa memperbaiki kualitas lingkungannya pada saat mereka sudah mencapai titik yang maksimal tadi. Jadi bagaimana caranya biar titik diminisinya itu lebih cepat daripada yang lainnya, agar kita memang tidak terlalu merusak kualitas lingkungannya. Jadi that's the point that I got from Dr. Miguel. Then regarding the second question from Mr. Mustafa about the producer of weapon, is there any political interest regarding the conflict in Russia and Ukraine about the producer of weapon, such as US, for example?
Yeah, well, personally I think yes, there is a. I mean, I think what you are trying to say is that the same thing that we saw, that wars are pushed by countries that produce guns, is the green revolution also pushed by countries that have green products and green services and green finance and green? So I think yes. I mean, I don't know. Last year, for example, the American companies and the American government visited Latin America in an excessive way. I mean, they haven't been so active in Latin America for many years. And they are going there offering consultations, telling them how to be more environmental friendly, offering them new projects, investments, etc. Of course, that will cause the Latin American country. I mean, they are going there for their resources, not because they are very beautiful, nice people and whatever, no? So yeah, I mean, if we try to make a parallel, it's very possible that yes, no? That there are some countries which are pushing the green revolution and the environmental thing. Yeah, well, I don't have more. I haven't think much about that, no? But yeah, I think it's true. No? There will be a huge demand for products they can offer, so they will benefit from that, of course. No? The bond markets, the green bond markets, and they will benefit tremendously from this green revolution. No? So it's a marketing campaign what they are doing. Yes, it's a marketing campaign.
Right, thank you. The last question is environmental tax a good and proper instrument to control industry and generating emission?
It's a $1 million question, because many countries have implemented that and not all of them have got good results. So some countries, the thing with the tax, the problem with the tax is that you have to find the optimal point. Okay, so you have to find the point in which the tax will work. Will work means that emissions will go down, and the output will not go too low or below the point that you need to support the economy. The thing is that it's $1 million question to define what is the optimal level of taxation. So it's not that this incentive for the companies, they find tax too high, and at the same time it's effective to lower the emissions. Yeah, so you have to go case by case. There are cases like, for example, what they did in Sweden and in some of these countries in Eastern Europe, they try to promote this tax in stages. So first they test their model of how optimal the optimal tax can be defined. Second, they push the companies to find other solutions besides taxation, which means you don't tax right away, but you start imposing taxes little by little, pushing companies to start looking for alternative solutions, which means it's like the government may not have to go into very high levels of taxation before there is an alternative solution for that. So I don't think high tax will solve the issue of environmental degradation. I think it will create more distortions in the markets, in the same way as subsidies create distortions. In Indonesia, the gasoline subsidy, the electricity subsidy, and other energy subsidies is a big barrier for environmental issues, I will dare to say. Because it's not economically profitable for a company to invest in solar energy or in other energies which are more costly than to use subsidized energy from governments. So the government is slowing down the process of adoption of new technologies because of the subsidies they are giving. So it's the same with taxation, but in the other way. So it can create disincentives for the sector. Sorry, I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, we ran out of time right now, so maybe I'm just gonna make the conclusion about our discussions today. So basically, Dr. Miguel has already addressed a lot regarding the importance of the large company in encouraging the country's economy. But actually, we also have to see the evidence that Indonesian economy is dominated by the small medium enterprises. So the only solutions here is like we're not gonna ignore the small companies and delay it at all, but we just try to make them collaborating with the large company by providing the component or whatever that can boost them to be involved in the international market so they can get more exposure in the international. So yeah, all right, thank you, Dr. Miguel, for having great discussion with us today. So hopefully we can have another sessions for the future. Thank you, and then give applause for Dr. Miguel. Alright, so for me, thank you for having here for all day. Then we expect that you can contribute more and participate again in this event for the next series of the International Summer Course. Thank you. For me, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Muhammad Zeki Yassin, for the special guide in these events today.
The next agenda is giving of certificate and documentation. Dear Honorable Dr. Herman Cahyodiarto, SEMP, we invite you to the stage to hand over the certificate to Dr. Rosita Binti Hamdan, Dr. Miguel Angel Esquivias Padilla, MSE, and Mr. Muhammad Zeki Yassin. For the committee, the time is yours.
Satu, dua, tiga. Lagi. 1, 2, 3. Satu, dua, tiga. Lagi satu, dua, tiga.
Kalian duduk bertiga sama aku tuh buat argumentasi.
Satu, dua, tiga. Lagi satu, dua, tiga. Oke.
Bertiga.
For documentation, Year Honorable for all lectures of Faculty of Economic and Business, University of Jember. The event is dismissed. Thank you so much for Dr. Rasita Binti Hamdan, Dr. Miguel Angel SPPS Paribas MSI, and Mr. Muhammad Zeki Yassin.
Of course, thank you so much for the attention from those all of participants. I, Novel Amar, and
Priska Wahila Kudewati,
as the master of ceremony would like to say thank you and sorry if we did something wrong, and see you next time. Development Economic Study Program, bringing green economics better. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
The Development Economics Study Program, Faculty of Economics and Business at Jember University. The Development Economics Study Program obtained A accreditation in 2017 from BANPT on 20th of June 2017. This shows that the Development Economics Study Program has a competitive advantage as a national study program and has international potential.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome Development Economic Study Program, Faculty Economic and Business, University of Jember. The Development Economic Study Program has vision to become an excellent study program at the development of environmental, economic, and agro-industry at the international level. And so, Development Economic Study Program have curriculum is DIES. DIES is Digital Ecology and Agro-Industry.
The Development Economics Study Program, with its superior potential as one of the recipients of the Ministry of Education, which is formulated in the development of economics learning outcomes in line with the IQF at level 6 qualifications, which are actualized in the independent campus curriculum based on OBE or outcome-based education, standardized achievement-based DIES.
Vision, you take just 3 variables.
Where the high number is not matched by sufficient employment opportunities.
So, this is thesis examination situations in the Development Economic Study Program.
Furthermore, it increased student interest coupled with acceptance of foreign students from Thailand through foreign student scholarships, increased student academic and non-academic achievements at regional, national, and international level.
Morning, everyone.
The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, or SDGs, is a new development agreement that promotes shifts towards sustainable development based on human rights and equity to promote social, economics, and environmental development.
Well, very nice question. So basically, the generations that is currently very popular is a Gen Z.
SDGs or TPP are implemented with universal integrations and inclusive principle to ensure that no one will be left behind.
There are 3 concentrations that students could choose based on their interests and expertise. It is Human Research Economics, Regional Economics and Agribusiness, and also Monetary Economics.
Also provides learning infrastructure that has been developed and maintained with an environmental perspective by prioritizing comfort, safety, and security that include in the Green Campus program. It is also provides access for students with special needs, adequate facilities and infrastructures, are provided for students of development economic study programs, such as 38 lecture rooms with large and medium capacities, computer laboratories for econometrics, entrepreneurships, and banking training rooms equipped with data analysis tools such as eFuse, Stata, and SPSS or Statistical Product and Service Solutions, followed by supporting facilities in the form of reference books or research journals, both in the physical and online form, adequate internet connections, and scientific publication institutions for students and lecturers' publications. The Development Economic Study Program always strives to provide welfare for students, both mentally and physically, by getting health services at the University of Jember Medical Center Clinic Unit by showing their student identity card. Apart from that, to increase students' critical power, there is an organization that allows students to participate for upgrading organizational skill, and we call it Student Associations of the Department of Economics or Himpunan Mahasiswa Jurusan Ilmu Ekonomi. The community of the Development Economic Study Program has used an integrated information system, or we call it SISTER, and also Faculty of Economic and Business website and Development Economic Study Program's website. Each level has their own website, email services with university domain, and cloud system. Students can access international literature in the form of ebook and reputable articles according to each student's scientific field by Science Direct, eJournal, and eBook Springer, Jember University Library, Cambridge eJournal, and eJournal Emerald.
Development Economic Study Program, bringing green economics better.